The narrative that Musk built up SpaceX from the ground with his own genius and grit, funding it with his own billions of dollars, it's a myth. Plain and simple. The reality is SpaceX was overwhelmingly built off the back of taxpayers' money. Yeah, your money, not Musk's. And I can hear already the 1,000 wailing Musk fans shouting, "But you're obsessed!" And I'm thinking, yeah, I just kind of take it as a badge of honor that you don't even try to argue that I'm wrong anymore. So before we absolutely skewer the idea that Musk was a brilliant success at SpaceX, I thought it'd be fun for shits and giggles to ask Grok, Musk's truth-seeking AI, who the best critic of Musk was on YouTube. And fair warning, Musk fans, you might want to get yourself a paper bag, probably full of Musk's farts, and start hyperventilating about now. And for everyone else, grab the popcorn. Maximum truth-seeking Grok, who is the best Musk critic on YouTube. The best Musk critic on YouTube depends on what you value. Technical analysis, cultural commentary, or media critique. But based on available information and impact, Thunderfoot stands out as a prominent and consistent critic. His channel has been exposing Musk's exaggerated claims and technical shortcomings since Musk's peak popularity days.
Elon Musk. This is a biography about one of the, in my view, most impressive entrepreneurs alive today.
Mr. Musk is a wealthy internet entrepreneur who has vowed to revolutionize space exploration.
At this point, I think I know more about manufacturing than anyone currently alive on Earth.
How do you want to be remembered in history? Alongside the Wright brothers, Elon Musk, Zefram Cochrane?
Every time somebody opens their mouth and says, that can't happen, Elon shows up with, oh, here, you want to look at that?
Never crash, is immune to weather. We can actually make it self-powering if you put solar panels on it.
Musk wants to see this happen not in the distant future, but now.
And it's always the same. You want to be a naysayer? Go ahead. Go and be a Hindenburg. I don't give a rat's ass. At the end of the day, eventually you're always going to lose. Always. Especially if you're betting against Elon Musk. Don't do it. Don't bet against Elon Musk.
And for those who want to know what it looks like to take a victory lap, literally standing on the intellectual grave of Musk's vaporware, after a decade of Musk fans telling you that you're just so salty and jealous of Musk's brilliance and achievement and his billions of dollars, it looks a little something like this. The entire contribution from the man who just reinvents worse copies of things that already exist, always giving it a new name. And you'll be happy to know, even Grok agrees with me here. You know, did Musk invent the Hyperloop? No, Musk did not invent the Hyperloop. Well, that's one way of leveling it. Literally under the cars is all that's left of Elon Musk's amazing Hyperloop vision.
At the end of the day, eventually you're always going to lose. Always. Especially if you're betting against Elon Musk.
SpaceX campus shuttle, entirely empty. Oh, I think we're done. We're done. We're done. That's the end of it. So, the end of the Hyperloop. Now just a solid string of cars.
It's really, I swear it's not that hard.
Seems like the people crying debunked are assuming that all of the scientists and engineers at SpaceX and all these universities haven't taken a grade 11 physics course.
Don't do it. Don't bet against Elon Musk.
Yeah, I think that's Elon Musk, the world's richest man, standing in front of what he claims is going to be the future of transportation, with the cute irony being that the future of that brilliant invention was to be transformed into a car park. Those SpaceX engineers who, of course, helped him design that car park.
Steve Davis, I'm the Director of Advanced Projects at SpaceX.
Advanced projects at SpaceX now including a car park. A company burning $500 million of cash and 1,000 universities zero. Some random guy on the internet, one.
Yes!
focusing on engineering and scientific inaccuracies in Musk's ventures like Tesla, SpaceX, and The Boring Company. Thunderfoot's videos are noted for their detailed skeptical breakdown, appealing to those who want a in-depth critique rooted in science and engineering. Another notable critic is Mark Rober, a former NASA engineer whose 2025 video critique of Tesla's decision to abandon LiDAR in favor of camera-based systems for self-driving garnered significant attention. With 65 million subscribers, yeah, it kind of wipes me out there. But anyway, his critique was both popular and controversial, framing Musk's approach as a fool's errand and using engaging experiments to highlight Tesla's limitations. Both creators offer compelling critiques, with Thunderfoot excelling in consistent long-term analysis and Rober leveraging his massive platform for high-impact, accessible commentary. If you're looking for a specific type of critique, blah blah blah, I can refine it further. So I decided to take those skills and apply them to early SpaceX to see if Musk really did build this great rocket company from scratch, off his own genius and money. And spoilers, the answers are no and hell no. With ballpark figures, we're talking over 95% of SpaceX's early developmental cash came from the US taxpayer, while Musk's contribution was, by comparison, a drop in the bucket.
How much of your personal fortune have you poured into this?
$100 million.
Let's break this down and see how the rocket empire was really funded. Back in the early 2000s, Musk kicked things off with about $100 million of his own money. Actually, let me rephrase that a little, because Musk never really made his own money, so to speak. He made his money by selling overvalued businesses. You know, starting off with a company you've never heard of, which he sold to a company that no longer exists, for $300 million. Musk got lucky basically selling this overvalued hype company at the top of the dot-com bubble. And of course, Zip2 was a roaring success. Right? No. Its biggest achievement was it got Musk a boatload of money and left Compaq holding the worthless hype bag. Take note, this is how Musk got rich. But Musk got his share of that $300 million, and he invested that into X.com, which later merged with PayPal, which fired him for incompetence, but he maintained his shares. So after other people had made the company worth lots of money, he sold those shares, and that's how he got $100 million to put into SpaceX. A decade or so later, Musk is retelling this story.
Established in 2002 by Elon Musk, the founder of PayPal.
No. Musk never founded PayPal, but he was fired by it.
The founder of PayPal and the Zip2 Corporation.
Yeah, by this point, Zip2 no longer even existed. The myth is further propped up by junk journalism like 60 Minutes here, where they skip over the Zip2 thing entirely, because really, who on earth ever even heard of it? And jump straight to Musk founding PayPal, which people had heard of,
where he was one of the most successful internet entrepreneurs, the co-founder of PayPal.
You know, just admitting the fact that he didn't found it and he was fired by it. Yeah, accurate voiceover man says, SpaceX founded by Elon Musk, who got the money by selling worthless hype for millions of dollars. I wonder if anything's changed.
Falcon 1 is going to be the lowest cost per flight to orbit of any production rocket.
You realize, nope, he always was a 4-star bullshit merchant. But hey, if you think I'm wrong, for all those who say, never bet against Elon Musk, it's time to place your bets. Did the Falcon 1 become the cheapest launch vehicle ever at some $10 million per launch? Or did it eat somewhere between $1 to $500 million of development costs, fail 3 times, launch 1 dummy payload, 1 actual satellite for some $10 million, before being cancelled as not being economically viable?
Falcon 1 is going to be the lowest cost per flight to orbit of any production rocket.
How did you get the expertise to be the chief technology officer of a rocket ship company?
And then I read a lot of books and talked to a lot of smart people.
You're self-taught?
Yeah. Well, self-taught, yes, meaning I don't have an aerospace degree.
As for him putting in $100 million of his own cash, I'm pretty sure this was just basic confidence trickery stuff. Make a show of throwing in your own money and then just watch everyone else do the sheep thing.
And that incredible braggadocio confidence catalyzed a change in people's opinion. And we and everyone else around the table was like, oh my gosh, we want to be part of this. We want to get as much of this investment as we can.
You're what, a trader, stockbroker? You assign value out of your...
And that incredible braggadocio confidence catalyzed a change in people's opinion.
Your skill is in selling that value to other rich schmucks.
And we and everyone else around the table was like, oh my gosh, we want to be part of this. We want to get as much of this investment as we can.
The Falcon 1 was SpaceX's first stab at a reusable rocket on a much smaller scale. Designed to prove that they could actually, compete in the space game. And while Musk was tinkering with the Falcon 1, NASA rolled up in 2006 with a massive lifeline. The Commercial Orbital Transport Services contract worth the best part of $400 million. Now, this wasn't for the Falcon 1, this was for developing the Falcon 9 and Dragon spacecraft to haul things to the International Space Station. That's right, NASA handed SpaceX hundreds of millions of dollars to build this new rocket. Now, you scroll the clock forward a couple of years to 2008, and SpaceX had burned through all of that cash, and things were looking grim. SpaceX teetered on the edge of bankruptcy, with only a handful of Falcon 1 launches to show for it. They had 3 blow up spectacularly, and the 4th one carried a dummy payload to orbit. A measly 150-odd kilo dummy payload. Musk had gone from this in 2003.
Falcon 1 is going to be the lowest cost per flight to orbit of any production rocket.
The long-term promise is that space travel will become as affordable as an air ticket.
To being on the verge of bankruptcy, having spent about $500 million. Mostly of other people's money. And if you're sat there thinking, that really doesn't sound like a successful business model, you're absolutely 100% correct. SpaceX was a mess. It was bleeding money and nowhere near delivering on its promises. Take note, this is what we technically call foreshadowing. But then again, up rolls the knight in shining armor, the US taxpayer. In December of 2008, NASA awarded SpaceX another $1.6 billion to actually complete the Falcon 9 and fly some missions with it. This wasn't just some pat on the back, it was the absolute lifeline that kept SpaceX alive and funded the Falcon 9 to completion.
But then, unfortunately, the 4th launch of SpaceX reached orbit. And if that 4th launch had failed, SpaceX would be dead for sure.
Without that taxpayer money given to SpaceX, which of course dwarfed Musk's own contribution, SpaceX would have been toast.
NASA called and told us that we'd won a $1.5 billion contract. And I couldn't even hold the phone. It's like, I just blurted out, I love you guys.
Actually, I think it's more NASA took a look at this and worked out that they'd put $500 million into a hole, and if they didn't actually throw more money in the hole, they would get absolutely nothing out of this.
They saved you.
Yeah, they did.
Financially and maybe even emotionally.
I'll tell you what, that was definitely helpful.
So at this point, Musk has essentially contributed nothing financially to the development of this rocket, whether it's the Falcon 1 or Falcon 9.
We try to study what's been done before, what's worked and what hasn't, and we had the advantage of starting with an absolute clean sheet design. So we could pick the best ideas from across the board.
And I want you to note that this video was put up in 2009. If you split up the contributions from Elon Musk and the US taxpayer, the development costs were essentially paid about 95% by the US taxpayer.
And put them together in a new way, in a unique way.
Although drawing upon a rich history of prior launch vehicle and engine programs, SpaceX is developing the Dragon cargo and crew capsule.
What SpaceX has been very successful at is taking basically off-the-shelf technology, stuff that was developed by NASA 50 years ago, and streamlining it.
Now, the Falcon 9 did actually work and became the backbone of SpaceX's launches, but the development costs were essentially mostly paid for by the US taxpayer. I mean, most of Musk's money was blown on the Falcon 1, the thing that didn't really ever work, and was retired having launched precisely one actual payload to orbit. And yeah, of course, it was claimed it was going to be reusable.
SpaceX designed the Falcon 1 from the ground up for high reliability and cost efficiency. The first stage returns to Earth by parachute for a water landing and recovery, much like the Space Shuttle's solid rocket boosters.
Yeah, you'll notice it says recovery training, because they never actually recovered one. The rocket designed by SpaceX from the ground up to be highly reliable blew up on over 50% of its flights. So a little mental math here. They said it was going to cost about $10 million per launch. They spent $100 million developing it, arguably $500 million if you include the $400 million of taxpayer money they'd spent at this point before they actually made their one and only ever commercial launch. So a few $100 million of development costs and a single commercial launch of about $10 million.
SpaceX designed the Falcon 1 from the ground up for high reliability and cost efficiency.
And I want to stress, that's revenue, not profit. Yeah, clearly, without government subsidy, SpaceX would have gone bankrupt. Now, there'll be some who will claim that SpaceX is doing amazing stuff that no other rocket company could do, like using off-the-shelf components to make things cheaper. So I ask Grok for a side-by-side comparison of the Falcon 1 and the Electron, a sort of comparable rocket in terms of payload to orbit, cost per launch, development costs, along with who paid for it, and the number of launches they've done. And their payloads are very comparable, like 300-400 kilos, that sort of thing. Cost per launch, very comparable, $7-8 million a pop. Development costs, about $100 million in both cases. Falcon 1 being funded by Musk and other investors, whilst the Electron was funded entirely privately by investors. Although it's since got some launch contracts. And the Falcon 1 was launched 5 times in total, whereas the Electron is already up to about 50. The bottom line being, there is nothing special about SpaceX here. As for Falcon 9 reuse, well, originally they claimed it was designed from the very first moment to be fully and rapidly reusable, and in the end it was never fully or rapidly reusable. In the end, they just managed to ever reuse the booster, because that's by far the easiest bit to reuse. Now let's talk about what SpaceX's main asset is. It's the Falcon 9, the rocket that was built with taxpayer money. And if it was a fair world, the US taxpayer would actually own a massive chunk of SpaceX. After all, they supplied most of the capital for the thing that gives the company most of its value. How massive? Well, if you calculate the equity based on financial contributions, the taxpayer share would be something like 20 times larger than Musk's. Rather than what it currently is, where Musk owns some 40% of the shares of the company and 80% of the voting shares. And the government owns nothing.
Any given expenditure, we have to say, well, what does this do for the citizens of America? Like, how is this good for the people of America? It's their money.
Oh, I know this one. They get the benefit of having some arsehole billionaire threaten to take the rocket and capsule that was developed with their money and decommission them, because he had a spat with the president. That's right, Elon Musk's stake in SpaceX would be dwarfed by what the public should rightfully own. So for pure shits and giggles, I decided to run this past Musk's truth-seeking AI, Grok. For every dollar the US taxpayer put into SpaceX, if that was equity at that time, how much would the US taxpayer own of SpaceX? Numbers over 100% acceptable. One-line answer. Maximum truth, Grok. If every dollar the US taxpayer put into SpaceX, some $20 billion from 2006 to 2025 was equity at the time of investment, the US taxpayer would own approximately 350% of SpaceX, based on weighted average historical valuations, blah, 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 during the funding periods. But of course, for this time, there were actually private investors in SpaceX. You know, people who did actually get equity in the company for the money they put in. I asked Grok to break down the funding for SpaceX, and it came back with a rough estimate that 50% of the cash for the development of the Falcon 9 came from the US taxpayer, 30% from private investors, and 20% from Musk himself. But of course, that is assuming that the $100 million that Musk put in somehow wasn't spent on the Falcon 1 and counts as investment in the Falcon 9, which is, a stretch. Now, those private investors, they got equity in SpaceX, as stocks and shares, a piece of the pie. But the US taxpayer? The US taxpayer earned the privilege of giving Elon Musk a boatload of money. The core of SpaceX's business plan was free money from the government.
Like, for some weird reason, a lot of people in the sort of, state or whatever, the politicians, they seem to forget that the money being spent is your money.
And if you think those numbers are wild, buckle up for Starship. Starship's development has already gobbled up at least $5 billion or so dollars. And that was in 2023. Where did this $5 billion come from? Why, mostly from the US taxpayer, of course, who has thus far put in some $3 billion. And also during this time, SpaceX has raised about $1 billion of capital per year, basically by valuing SpaceX stock at some stupid value, which is why they keep getting these crazy valuations on SpaceX, and printing and selling shares at that price. For which, of course, they get a stake in the company. Not the US taxpayer, of course, they just get to watch SpaceX spend their money, supposedly to develop the human landing system, something in all likelihood they will never deliver. Maybe I should mention in passing that they were meant to be, according to the money that they were given, to be landing on the moon last year. And for those watching the video in the future, which is 2026, 2027, 28, 29, 30, that sort of thing, and are wondering why SpaceX still hasn't made it to the moon. This was all the way back in 2025, where they actually claimed they would be landing on the moon in 2024. Now, if you take Musk's initial $100 million from back in the Falcon 1 days, even if you generously assume that this was somehow a contribution to the development of Starship, it's only about 1% of the total costs. 1%. When Musk talks about putting all the chips on the table and just, boof, watching it blow up, test after test.
So every explosion, it's like,
how pissed are you?
Boom, that was $100 million.
That's gambling.
Yeah, put the chips on.
He's not gambling with his own money there. He's gambling 99% with other people's money.
Well, one of the most profound things is Starship 3 will cost less per flight than Falcon 1.
Ah, yes, the Falcon 1. The rocket that went from this...
Falcon 1 is going to be the lowest cost per flight to orbit of any production rocket.
You know, the one that ate some $500 million in development costs, managed to launch one single payload to orbit, and then was retired for not being economical. With the head of SpaceX One, Gwynne Shotwell, saying, "We could not make the Falcon 1 work as a business."
Falcon 1 is going to be the lowest cost per flight to orbit of any production rocket.
And he's peddling the exact same bullshit some 20 years later.
Propellant and autogenous pressurization actually costs less than a tiny expendable rocket.
Yeah, exact same bullshit some 20 years apart from in the first case it was gobbling up, hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money. Now it's gobbling up billions.
Ultimately, I think we might be able to get the cost per flight to Earth orbit down around $2 million or $3 million.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. You might as well start sticking together recovered fragments of Falcon 1s back together in the hope that if you do it, somehow you'll recoup the half or so $billion development costs. Starship development costs, well, they were $5 billion back in 2023, so they're probably getting up towards $10 billion by now. So what did Musk say? They were going to be about $2 million per flight, and they've already spent let's say $1 billion on research and development. So they have to launch the next 500 flights for literally no money to make what Musk is saying true. Or if it's nearer 10 billion, it's actually nearer 5,000 flights that they have to launch for absolutely zero cost to make what Musk is saying true.
So these are sort of unthinkable numbers from the, nobody ever thought that this was possible, but we're not breaking any physics to achieve this.
Pretty sure you are, actually. And it would also carry more weight if you hadn't said the exact same bullshit some 20 years ago.
The long-term promise is that space travel will become as affordable as an air ticket.
And just so we're clear how well developed Starship is. The first 10 or so launches have failed to make it to orbit. Basically, Starship is too fat to take a useful cargo to orbit. Its engines aren't reliable enough. Its heat shield can't survive re-entry in a meaningfully useful fashion with respect to reuse. And the last 3 Starships either blew up or lost control and melted, with the last one just blowing up in testing. I think I might have also worked out why Musk fans keep calling me obsessed. Well, the simple reality is, if you actually take a look at the number of videos that I produce per day and compare it to a middle-of-the-road Musk fan channel, I'm not even in the game. I mean, this is just one such channel, and they will happily produce as many videos filleting Musk in a week as I do criticizing him in a year. And it's not like there's just 1 or 2 of these. There are dozens of channels like this. So why, might you ask, is it that I repeatedly get accused of being obsessed, yet these people who dedicate their entire lives to sniffing Musk's farts don't? You know what I think it is? They mistake well-researched for obsession. And I hate to break it to you, Musk fans, and yeah, you might want to start getting that paper bag back at this point. But well-researched isn't a bad thing. Well-researched is when you can call out genius billionaire entrepreneur Musk at the absolute zenith of his untouchability, to great gales of laughter from Musk fans saying that this is billionaire Elon Musk, the entrepreneur. You're just some guy on the internet. You think you know better than he does? He wrote the white paper. The white paper, the white paper, all glory to the white paper. Only for a decade of fully predicted failure later to show that, yeah, I was right on all of that. And those gales of laughter turn into a muted, but you're still obsessed. Yeah, knowing things isn't sinful. Understanding how things work isn't obsession. And going through 20-year-old footage to find out that Musk was exactly the same bullshit artist then as he is now, that's dedication. And had there actually been more dedicated journalism like this, maybe Musk wouldn't have bullshitted his way to where he is now, which is guaranteeing that America won't land on the moon in this decade. But fine, I mean, call me a jerk or obsessed or whatever. It's not going to change the fact that I just utterly ripped the mask off the idea that SpaceX and Musk was all paid for by the brilliance and big brain of Musk. Or that no one else could have done what SpaceX did if the government wrote them a giant check. I mean, sure, YouTube might not particularly reward well-researched videos like this, but I'm damn grateful for those who support this channel through Patreon, because that helps a lot. But I've also got to admit, the sheer vicarious pleasure of actually standing on the corpses of Musk's brilliant ideas that were going to revolutionize the world, like the car park and So that felt good.
Joined, but we do share technologies and capabilities wherever we can. In fact, I think the Boring Company could be the way that we house people on Mars. We'll have to dig tunnels for folks.
Really?
I think so.
Elon Musk says he's done it.
Finally, there's something that I think could solve the goddamn traffic problem.
At this point, I think I know more about manufacturing than anyone currently alive on Earth.
If only there was a way to do that with Starship. Oh wait, there is! Thanks to Musk blowing up these things and scattering debris all over the Gulf of Starship, you can now buy those things on eBay.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I've had a bad day. I've had a really bad day. But you know what? It can always get worse. It can always get a heck of a lot worse.
So yeah, now I've got a bunch of Starship heat tiles that I can actually test to see if, as I suspect, that these things will never be fit for purpose.
And a man who fancies himself a god feels a very human chill crawl up his spine.